Top Best 37 Games of 1973. Here are games ranked 34 to 37. The entire list of the top 37 games. Empire II. The first part significantly differed from the subsequent ones, which would be less strategic. This year, as I will discuss in the next section, the second part was released. The third part will be released next year, and the fourth in 1976. This game claims the role of the first multiplayer online game with Maze War. But most likely, it was indeed the first. The first part was a turn-based strategic game for up to 8 players, in later versions, up to 30. Each player was the leader of their government, had ships for trade and warfare, and planned industry and budget. The budget allowed building more ships, with industry supporting all of it. Trade allowed supplying production with resources. Later, it was replaced by a more tactical, rather than strategic, second part. However, the first part was preserved for historical legacy under the name Conquest. Over the years, it evolved to the point where games could last for days as players left, replaced by others. Esports competitions with entire teams were created. Many imitators later emerged, such as Trek 82, Robotrek, X-Trek, and Netrek. Empire II and Empire III became more tactical, moving away from strategic gameplay. Here, you join a team of players as the commander of an individual ship. I will talk about the latest version with all the improvements. The goal of the game is to defeat everyone in the galaxy and become the Empire. There are 4 races in the game: Federation, Romulans, Orions, and Klingons, replaced by Kzinti due to copyright concerns. Each race has its advantages. Orions are weakly armed but fast, Romulans have the best weapons but are slow, Federates and Kzinti represent something in between. Up to 30 players can play simultaneously, with a maximum of 15 in a team. After death, you respawn on your nearest planet. The game has 2 types of weapons. Phasers fire instantly in a cone, and torpedoes have travel time, which can be dodged, but they deal maximum damage. Torpedoes can be detonated earlier to quickly release new ones or catch an opponent off guard. The game had a limit of 20 keystrokes per minute and 1 frame per second. However, the number of frames could be slowed down to 1 in 10 seconds, and then time followed the slowest player. Fuel was quickly depleted in the game, requiring strategic planning to avoid destruction due to immobility after fuel ran out or due to its conservation. There were many tactical tricks because the game was quite balanced. Players had to often anticipate each other's actions to outsmart them. For example, you could wait until torpedoes got closer and then make a hyperspace jump and shoot yours because the opponent could not launch new ones until the previous ones exploded. But the opponent could anticipate this and detonate them beforehand, then release new ones in the area of your jump. And other similar mind games relative to each other. Chief, Mainframe. A game that teaches you math with humor. An unusual phenomenon, in my opinion, so I decided to tell you a bit about it. Here, the computer acts as the god of mathematics for Native American tribes and gives you a certain amount at the beginning. The player must try to solve the problem. If your answers are incorrect, it will provoke the wrath of the god of mathematics. Board of Directors, Mainframe. The game tries to make you a great manager. But for this, you have to remember what paper letters are because that's the main way to play it. Letters are first printed, distributed to players, and player responses are entered into the computer. And then the same thing again. Up to 10 teams can be in the game. Each manages a separate corporation. Players decide on the price to set, how much to invest in production, in research, and what the advertising budget will be. After each turn, you receive a report showing how well the company is doing. In this video, I will talk about arcade exclusives that were officially never ported anywhere else. Computer Space Ball, Arcade. It is a spin-off of the well-known game Computer Space, which was the first commercially sold game. This is one of the first Pong clones on arcade machines. Ace, Arcade. This game features a projection screen, simulating aerial combat. 2 discs with images are used in the game, one with images from the First World War and the other with images from the Second World War. If the player shoots down all 14 planes, they receive a token for a free attempt. It's worth noting the relatively good sound accompaniment for those years. Paddle Ball, Arcade. This is a rather unremarkable and typical Pong clone with no significant differences from its counterparts. Pro Tennis, Arcade. In this Pong clone, the ability to play with 4 players was introduced, which was atypical for that year. The game continued until one team scored 11 or 15 points. TV Table Tennis, Arcade. This Pong clone's only notable feature was that an advanced version called Wham Bam was released later, which had paddles of different colors, allowing players to have differently colored paddles to hit the balls. Winner, Arcade. This game has several notable features, not in the game itself, but in the history of its creation. It was the first arcade game from the well-known player in the video game industry, Midway. Moreover, they approached the project seriously, as they licensed their Pong clone from Atari. 101 basic computer games, Mainframe. Most of the games developed for free using the BASIC language were added here. While these games did not always stand out in terms of quality, their format inspired many future developers. Laser Clay Shooting System, Arcade. Although not a typical video game, as it used film-based information transfer technology rather than a pure video signal, this game is considered Nintendo's first attempt in the video game market. The gameplay involved shooting a light gun at moving targets. Slalom, Mainframe, Sol 20. The first game in my top list released on more than one platform. The game is a turn-based downhill skier simulator with obstacles, representing an Olympic sport. Players choose the difficulty of the course, up to 25 gates. Throughout the game, you are asked about your speed, and the challenge is to adjust it properly to avoid disqualification. Drag, Mainframe, Sol 20. A racing game with an interesting concept. You don't control your car, it drives itself. Before the race, you customize your car by adjusting parameters such as engine power, tire width, and tire diameter. The better you customize, the higher your chances of winning. This section features games from a very unconventional console, the first gaming console in history. It had almost no graphics of its own, consisting literally of a few pixels. The primary graphics were on a plastic overlay with a drawing attached to the screen, held in place by the static electricity of old televisions. These televisions were cathode ray, not liquid crystal, as they are today. The package also included a paper manual, tokens, cards, playing dice, etc., depending on the game. Basketball, Odyssey. In this game, the action mainly takes place near a vertical line on the left side of the screen. The player who catches the ball must keep their pixel bouncing off this line and aim it at the opponent's red dot, the basket, at the right moment. The opponent stands behind, trying to interfere. After a scored basket, the winner starts from their penalty area, and the one who missed starts from the center. If the shooting player misses, the ball passes to the other player, and they start dribbling from their half. The winner is the first to reach 24 points, with a required 2-point advantage. Interplanetary Voyage, Odyssey. This game accommodates 2 to 4 players. The goal is to collect mission cards earned by completing on-screen missions. Players have 3 moves to reach the planet, making sudden turns by manipulating controls. If too weak, you won't reach the goal. If too strong, you'll exit the map, failing the mission. Leaving the map means surrendering mission cards or a power chip if you have none. Similar penalties apply for entering the sun's zone. A power chip can block planets if you anticipate an opponent's move. The victory conditions are 15 missions for 2 players, 12 for 3, and 9 for 4. W.I.N. Odyssey. A group game for 2 to 4 players where players choose cards from 3 decks, W.I.N. word, image, number. Each card represents a type of image. Players must try to align their word, image, and number pixels on the screen when it's invisible and then make it visible to see the final result. If unsuccessful, other players get a chance. The winner is the first to assemble all elements from their initial cards. Brainwave, Odyssey. Like most games on this platform, Brainwave consists of 2 parts, on screen and on paper. The goal is to move across the paper board from one edge to the opposite, blocking the path for other players when possible. To do this, you need to earn tiles, which you can buy with points earned in the on-screen part of the game. You roll dice and try to enter inconvenient sections, making it difficult for opponents to attack your pixel. If they hit, they get the points. The less safe the situation for defense, the fewer points you can earn. Trek 73, DOS, Mainframe. This game is based on the Star Trek TV series, but is not a remake of the well-known earlier game by Mike Mayfield. It is less strategic and more action-oriented. Unlike its predecessor, it lacks a galactic map or starbases. The game is controlled through text commands. Awari, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe. Awari is a digital version of the game Kala. The game consists of 6 pits and 1 storehouse where the 1 seeds are collected. Players start with 4 seeds in each pit. The player uses the storehouse to their right and moves counterclockwise. If their last seed falls into an empty pit, they capture the seeds opposite that pit. If the last seed lands in the storehouse, they get an extra turn. The game continues until someone collects all the seeds in their storehouse. Life 2, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe. Inspired by Conway's Game of Life, the goal of this game is to simulate an ecosystem based on given parameters, observing how the structure changes depending on the previous positions of living cells. Each turn follows specific rules. Any living cell with 1 or 0 neighbors dies, as does a cell with 4 or more neighbors. A dead cell with 3 neighbors comes to life. After each turn, players can add another cell of their choice. Pizza, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe. In this game, you specify how many pizzas you want to sell. A table then appears before you, and you must spot coordinates on the table and note the address to deliver to the customer. You earn $1 for each successfully delivered pizza. If only real-life earning were as easy. Pong Doubles, Arcade, Console. This is an enhanced version of the popular Pong game from Atari, designed for 4 players. It was later ported from arcade cabinets to its own console. Instead of 2, there are now 4 paddles, and 2 teams of 2 players each compete against each other. This approach likely increased the number of disputes in gaming arcades. French Fur Trader, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe, Sol 20. This is a text-based trading simulation set in 1776 in North America. Players must try to earn money by trading furs in 3 different forts located close to each other. Money is spent on purchasing supplies for the next year. The game concludes when the player runs out of goods for trading. Warfish, Mainframe, Sol 20, TRS 80. A turn-based text game about submarines based on the 1958 novel, Warfish. Players command an American submarine in battles against Japanese ships during World War II. Each turn, players can choose commands such as submersion, using the periscope, or launching torpedoes. The number of torpedoes is limited, and players face various types of enemy ships. Bullseye, Apple II, DOS, Mainframe. A simple text simulation of the lesser-known game of darts, designed for up to 20 players. Yes, 20 players. In 1973. The game board is divided into sections worth 10, 20, 30, and 40 points, and each player takes turns choosing a throw. A quick throw overhand, a controlled throw overhand, or an underarm throw. You'll be waving your hands until one of you, among the sweaty crowd of 20 enthusiasts, scores 200 points. Mugwump, Commodore 64, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe. Not to be confused with a game with a similar name that will rank higher and be in a different genre, although it was inspired by irritation with this one. The game features a 10 by 10 grid. Players call out coordinates, and if they find the creature, they win the round. If not, the distances to the other 4 are announced, but the direction is not specified. Players have 10 attempts to find them all. In the initial release, the creature looked quite distinctive, a dog with a sad expression, realizing its legs were from an elephant. Snark, Intel 8080, Mainframe, Sol 20, Zilog Z80. This game is a variation of the previous game, Mugwump, where you need to find a creature on a 10 by 10 grid. However, there are some differences. Firstly, you only need to find one creature, not 4. Secondly, you specify not coordinates from 2 directions, but a single coordinate, either inside or outside a specified circle. Acey, Deucy, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe, Motorola 6800, TRS-80. In this game, you are given a certain amount of money, and the goal is to either increase it or lose all of it. 2 cards, ranging from 2 to ace, are shown, and you decide whether to bet and how much against the card that will fall outside this range. For example, if a 2 ace falls, you will win for sure. If a 3 king falls, there are only 2 cards that will make you lose. Therefore, adjusting the size of your bet depending on the number of bad cards is wise. You can play against the computer, choosing one of the following strategies: random, conservative, liberal, optimal. The game of Chomp, Intel 8008, Intel 8080, Mainframe, Motorola 6800, Sol 20, Zilog Z80, TI Programmable Calculator. This is a strategic game where players compete in their veracity by taking turns biting off pieces of a cookie represented in a grid. Players indicate coordinates, and everything below and to the right of that point is eaten. The player who takes the last piece loses. It's doubtful that this game was developed anywhere other than in a student cafeteria where money ran out. Hexapawn, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe, TRS-80, Wang 2200. This is a highly simplified version of chess. You have a 3x3 board with 2 rows of pawns and initially only one free line in the middle. Like in chess, you can capture pieces diagonally, taking their place. The victory conditions are either capturing all opponent pieces or being the last to block a move for the other player, giving an advantage to white pieces greater than in regular chess. The game's difficulty is amusingly adjusted. Initially, the computer moves somewhat randomly but memorizes all losing moves to avoid repeating them. Over time, the computer becomes very challenging to beat. Reverse, Commodore PET, CBM, Intel 8008, Intel 8080, Kim1, Mainframe, TRS-80, Zilog Z80. You are given a list of 9 numbers in random order. You need to perform several manipulations to arrange them in ascending order from 1 to 9. To do this, you choose how many numbers on the left will be reversed. For example, if you have the sequence 234,516,789, and you say 4, the first 4 numbers are reversed, making the sequence 543,216,789. Then you say 5, and the first 5 on the left are reversed, resulting in the sequence 123,456,789. The goal of the game is to achieve this in as few moves as possible. Hurkle, Commodore 64, Commodore PET, CBM, Mainframe, Motorola 6800, Sol 20, TI Programmable Calculator, ZX80. This game shares mechanics with the game Mugwump, but with some differences aimed at simplification, making it more popular and earning it a higher ranking here. On a 10x10 board, you have to find only one creature. The direction, north, northeast, etc., is provided, which is the main difference. The objective is to find the creature in as few moves as possible. Matches: Altair 8800, Commodore PET, CBM, Intel 8080, Kim1, Mainframe, Sol 20, Wang 2200, Zilog Z80. This game is an implementation of the well-known tabletop game involving pulling matches. At the beginning, you choose how many matches are in the pile. Then, you select a number from 1 to 3, indicating how many matches to take from the pile. The computer then takes its turn. The goal is to make your opponent pull the last match. Top 3. Wumpus, Altair 8800, Apple II, Commodore PET, CBM, HP Programmable Calculator, Intel 8080, Kim1, Mainframe, Sol 20, TRS-80, Wang 2200. This is a text-based, turn-based adventure where the player needs to kill a monster named Wumpus, located in one of 20 rooms. Each room has 1 entrance and 2 exits, 3 paths in total. All rooms are numbered, and this is indicated during the game. Wumpus may not stay in one place and sometimes reacts to the player's actions. For example, when you find him before shooting, he will either move away or kill you. The game features 2 bottomless pits and 2 caves with super bats that transport you to a random cave. Pits kill you. Since Wumpus reacts to light, you navigate by scent and wind, and information about neighboring caves is provided, drafts from pits, the monster's smell, or the presence of bats. To kill the monster, you have 5 curved arrows that can change direction and even return like a boomerang. When shooting, you specify the cave and distance, up to 5 caves. If the arrow misses Wumpus, he may change his position. You need to track him down or rely on luck. Many consider the game a precursor to the survival horror genre, although not everyone agrees. Top 2. Lemonade Stand, Apple II, DOS, Mainframe. This is a business management simulator for running a lemonade stand. You have 12 rounds to achieve the maximum result without going bankrupt. Either stop the game due to bankruptcy or update the high score table. Before each round or day, the weather is indicated: sunny, cloudy, hot, dry. If it's cloudy, a random event like a storm may occur, causing you to lose all money for that round. Then, you choose how many servings to prepare, how many advertising signs to place, they cost money, and the price per glass. The results for that round are then revealed. Other random events include wind blowing away some signs or streets being blocked, etc. The game was quite well known in schools in the 80s, as Apple II often supplied its computers to classrooms with this game. Top 1. Lunar Lander, Arcade, Macintosh, Windows, Apple I, Commodore PET, CBM, Apple II, TRS-80, Atari 8-bit, VIC-20, TRS-80 CoCo, Game Boy, DOS. Here, you attempt to land a lunar module on the moon. In the initial text-based version of the game, you were shown the amount of fuel, current speed, and distance to the ground. You had to specify the amount of thrust. If the thrust was too high, fuel would be depleted too quickly, and you'd crash. If it was too low, the spacecraft would crash due to high speed. Later, as graphics improved, e.g., with vector graphics, additional controls were added, such as the angle of movement and lateral speed. With vector graphics, you could also crash if you landed on uneven terrain. Later versions of the game transitioned from turn-based to real-time mode. Thanks for likes and comments.